just a reality of sports. That shows us that we're a real sport and that we're here to stay, is that pundits have loud voices in every sport. People watch Match of the Day for football or soccer, as it is in North America. People watch, Charles Barkley and the gang when it comes to NBA, and those opinions are going to be really loud opinions.
This is Zento from Esports Heaven, and I have here with me PapaSmithy from 100 Thieves.
Happy to be here.
Now, we just went through that Dignitas versus 100 Thieves game, and it was kind of interesting because I want to first talk about the draft. And now, normally with a general manager, I wouldn't talk about in-game specifics, but you're kind of in a unique position. And so I'll address kind of this Dignitas and 100 Thieves draft, because it seemed strange given that Trundle was picked. What do you think about Trundle within the current meta right now, and especially for 100 Thieves?
I think obviously I'm also in that unique position where I don't want to reveal too much about kind of our priorities. What I will say is that I think Trundle, when it enters metas, always comes in the front door screaming. It's always like, oh, Sejuani's in the meta, Trundle, right? And like that's something that people know, and then people are playing like Fleet Footwork Sejuani to not have the aftershock interaction and stuff like that. And then people kind of settle on other matchups, like, oh, against Olaf, like he can deal with CC, but Pillar can be good against him. So like you get that. And I think now people are starting to experiment a bit more with, okay, he's good against tanks, we know about that interaction. He's good against certain other matchups in the jungle. But I think there is kind of more and more spots for Trundle than I think people don't necessarily appreciate. I'm not saying this was like the super ideal spot, but I think the champion, when it comes to zone control, offers a lot, and Pillar can actually be underrated, even though it's like his signature skill. So at the end of the day, I think the champion's strong, and don't be surprised to see people draft Trundle in spots where it's not just the most obvious hit on your head, this is a Trundle angle.
So speaking of which, kind of, let's talk the meta of what we're doing right now, which is an interview. Because in your previous profession of being a caster, you could freely talk about any team strategy or whatnot, but you're coming from the team side aspect
That's
now.
right.
So how does it, I guess, feel, or how do you kind of balance that idea whenever you're being interviewed to not reveal too much? It seems like a tricky thing for someone like you in your position.
You definitely have to be on guard more. I know that people always love the LCK broadcast because we could leave it like all on the table. There was very little oversight from Riot. So compared to the perception of, say, NA and EU, people knew that Korea was kind of like the Wild West when it came to topics. Like you could talk about Overwatch League, you could talk about other things. And this is a bit more buttoned up because I represent, a multi-million-dollar organization who has put a lot of faith in me as a startup GM, if you will, like first role outside of casting. So you definitely like work on your P's and Q's and make sure you don't say any naughty words and things like that. But then it's also the competitive integrity where whether I'm giving feedback on the heist and being like, no, that screen needs to be redacted. There's too much talk about picks here. That needs to be changed. That needs to be bleeped. Like that's obviously, again, kind of similar to conversations here, where if I just lay out all our thoughts, kind of the only upside to me doing that is, I guess, to like look smart or something, which I'm not looking to do, or to give you like fake information, right? Like that's why when you see the sideline interviews with the coaches, like 1 minute into the game where they're like trying to see what's happening at level 1, I actually told Zix, I'm like, if you keep doing these, why don't you just give completely false info, but say it like with a straight face, and then maybe what people want, they'll either like, wait, he's an idiot, or wait, maybe Twitch does beat every AD carry.
I've kind of thought that in interviews before too. I'm just like, are they bullshitting me? Or
the point of an interview is to share information and hopefully to engage fandom, and I feel like I can still do that, even if when it comes to certain topics, you do have to always kind of think through your sentences, maybe more than you did as a caster.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about your kind of functionality and what you've been doing within 100 Thieves. and more specifically with the Ryoma pickup.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not sure if you have addressed this before, but there was this perception within the community that maybe this was a biased pickup, right? Because, of course, the region where he comes from,
Nepotism.
Right? Yeah, and nepotism. Mm-hmm. So how would you address that kind of, I guess, criticism?
I think criticism is a strong word. Like, it's just a topic, right? It's why Ryoma? And you kind of look down the list of people and you can look at Australian and be like, nepotism. If I had picked up a Challengers career player, that would have been a different type of nepotism, right? Because I was an LCK caster. Like people are just always looking for explanations, and when it's a player that showed up in MSI play-ins, but largely unheralded, player from Oceania, there's a lot of questions and not a lot of answers. People didn't really know what to expect about this player coming into the league. They didn't know where to ground their expectations, and so you have to grab onto something, right? And I think that's why it's quite natural that people it must be the fact that they're both Australian. Mm-hmm. To be honest, I wasn't really aware of Ryoma as a player as late as September of last year. I followed the OPL, but mostly the names I remembered from years before.
Yeah.
And he's a newer generation of OPL player. So there was no kind of I was not fantasy booking myself to be on a team with Ryoma from years past. It very much was just a clinical, let's look out there for English-speaking mid laners, who's got video we like, what's the kid like kind of pickup, rather than anything shady. So I think it's natural, and it's just low-hanging fruit. I went on Twitter and outlined the reasons why we chose Ryoma, and if people look at that and intentionally decide that I'm lying, that's their right. I can't give more than I give out. I just like to think that I've always been pretty straightforward with why I've made decisions, and we just thought that Tommy was the most promising player of the players we looked at with a high upside. We understood that there were risks, that he wouldn't necessarily take off, but I guess the only thing timeline-wise that people didn't know that we knew was the change in format when it came to spring and summer.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of a case of, can you get Faker? No. Okay, so you can't get the god tier mid laner. So how should you approach the mid lane scenario then? And we went for, we've got time, so let's look for upside. And whether upside is ever realized or not, is kind of on the coaches and Tommy at this point, right?
Yeah.
But we still feel really good about our decision. It's not to say that he's been able to take the LCS by storm in the way that you kind of hoped, the high roll, if you will, of a risk.
Yeah.
But internally, he's got a great attitude. He works really hard. He's a fantastic teammate. And so, as I've said in other interviews, it's just a case of everything he's doing prep-wise, we love. We're just waiting for him to pop off like we know he can, and he just has to show the world, at some point that he's arrived,
Yeah, he's got a bright future for sure. So lastly, let's talk about this debate going on currently about analysts being overcritical and also having kind of sway over maybe how a player plays or how they build or team drafts even just from the outset and not even being a part of those particular teams. Do you feel as though outside commentary from analysts or even fans is overreaching at this point? Or
I don't think it's overreaching. I think people don't understand how much power casters have, but also groupthink and places like Reddit have. Public opinions are going to be shaped by casters first and foremost because they're the people giving the live analysis, and they theoretically understand the game on a higher level than 95, 99, whatever percentage of viewers. And so the way the pipeline is, the game is being played, it's being digested by the casters, who are the closest point of contact there, and then being kind of explained in an understandable way to the masses, right? So because there's that bottleneck of the caster, of course people are going to be able to grab that a lot easier than the actual gameplay. There will always be exceptions there, but that's largely the way it works. So there's obviously a lot of power being wielded by casters. And when it comes to that, coming onto the team side, I speak to a lot of people on the team side who don't like casters because their job security or the reality of what they were doing was second to the easy to understand kind of criticism or thoughts of pundits. But that's just a reality of sports. That shows us that we're a real sport and that we're here to stay, is that pundits have loud voices in every sport. People watch Match of the Day for football or soccer, as it is in North America. People watch Charles Barkley and the gang when it comes to NBA, and those opinions are going to be really loud opinions. I think basically what I would say to fans is to vet the people they listen to, make sure that they connect with the clear, because everyone has their biases, things they like, the things they don't like.
Of course, yeah.
They announce them, and it's not quite a political party, but it is very much this is the person, you've got all the information out there, vet to make sure that these are people you connect with, and then go on a journey with them. At the end of the day, I think it's just natural. The scenarios are coming here, and so it's really on everybody to make decisions they feel good about when it comes to the people they listen to, because there's always going to be loud voices.
Yeah. All right, well, knowledge is power. G.I. Joes. This has been Zento from Esports Heaven and PapaSmithy from 100 Thieves. Thank you.
Pleasure.